This is what gets most guys and screws guys up, gets guys caught up in their relationships and dating situations. The thing I'm going to talk about today is a thing that really can sneak up on you and put you in a place where you're finding yourself being controlled in a bad way. Not that that would ever be a good thing necessarily, but you're being controlled in a very toxic way by the woman that you're with and the woman that you're seeing. All right. And this is a thing that they'll do. If I had to pick one thing that seemed to be the most common thing, because there's a lot of possible things, right? There's a lot of toxic things that can happen in a relationship, and it takes two to tango in a relationship. So sometimes both the guy and the girl are being toxic, playing off of each other. But when a woman is controlling a guy in a toxic way, this is probably the most common thing that I see, and the guy is just not aware it's happening. And it's called retroactive abuse. Okay, so this is a it's I've talked about this before in different ways, but there's a term for it that I don't think I've used yet in a video. And ironically, although those of you guys who have your lenses of awareness on, okay, you know what's happening out there. Um, Ironically, or maybe not ironically, intentionally, there's not a lot of information about retroactive abuse out there. If you do a search on YouTube or something like that, not much is covered on it. And what you'll find that's covered on retroactive abuse is covered from the female perspective, surprise, surprise, gynocentric perspective, right? And so, in other words, it's the guy doing it to the girl, and that's how it's presented. Most of your articles are presented that way or very gender neutral. They're not presented in a way where it talks about how the girl will do this and how women do this to men. Surprise, surprise, right? So I'm here to deliver to you another low click video of platinum level information that most people will not hear about or see because this is not going to be popular to the mainstream audience that is always appealing to a gynocentric narrative. And retroactive abuse is one of the greatest tools of toxic behaviors in a relationship that a woman has to control a man. And again, I've talked about this in different ways, but I'm going to spell it out a little bit more clearly here. And this will not likely catch algorithms. This will not likely be a popular video. This will be another one where grassroots and word of mouth, people will hear about it, and it might get a couple thousand views after a week or two, if it's lucky. And most men out there, millions and millions of men, will go through life never hearing about this or not really hearing about this and applying it to their situation. And they'll be completely blind to the manipulation that they are under with women in their relationships. Now, some of that manipulation won't be too serious and wouldn't be in like any kind of abuse category or whatever. It's just part of the power struggle that can tend to happen in most relationships. And obviously, 15% of relationships that make it to the eight year mark are in fact happy, or we can categorize them as happy. And so maybe 15% of women in relationships that are long term, particularly, aren't doing this at all. Or if they did it before, they don't do it anymore, right? Because this kind of thing breeds unhappiness. You're not going to be happy as a man when she does what I'm about to talk about, which is the retroactive abuse thing. So, what is retroactive abuse? What is this guy? I'm sorry. I'm looking at always about. Oh, okay. I'm just looking at guys in the chat. Anyway, you got any questions? Go ahead, throw them in the chat. This is going to be a short video, so but if I see a question that's relevant, I'll answer it. So, what is retroactive abuse? So, retroactive abuse happens because a woman, in this case, I'm going to talk about it, women doing the tactic to men. Okay. Yes, men do this to women all the time. Very toxic dudes do this to women all the time. So if most of my audience is men, so if that's you, you have to make sure you don't do this kind of stuff. Okay. It's a very toxic and divisive thing. And I would argue that it falls in line with one of those behaviors that will eventually put you in a place where your relationship is going to be failing and not successful. Okay, so this is one of those things that's kind of a big thing. And it falls under kind of a toxic game category. And a lot of guys who really are kind of weird and hang their hats on trying to get the girls and control them and stuff and be like that. Oh, look at all the control I have over women. Those kinds of guys, which is not me, and it's not who I teach or train. Okay. Just because I teach you high level persuasion skills, I teach you those things to do better and be better in your relationships and to have good relationships, good dating scenarios, good sexual situations, so on and so forth. I'm not hanging my hat or suggesting any of you guys should hang your hats on how cool you are because you can control so many women by playing the game. You know what I mean? And I'm saying it as using as little slang as possible. But guys who are a little weird or a little whatever and want to play the game, whatever, and those kinds of guys will do this shit. All right. And it's not good. So don't let that be you. Because you don't need to do this, what I'm about to say. So the perspective is women doing it to men. Okay. Just FYI. And what it is doing things to create reactions out of you. We could call them shit tests. We know that shit tests are like normal female behavior, right? But those are not done to control you. Those are done because a girl, not always, sometimes they are, but those are done because a girl is uncertain about you or uncertain about certain things or outcomes, or maybe even uncertain about herself. And she wants reassurance. And she can't just say to you, hey, give me reassurance, because guys will say anything anyway for vagina. So she has to do something to cause you to react in order to appease, her we'll say insecurity, but it might not be an insecurity that's unjustified though, right? It could be like she's uncertain about if you're really a masculine guy because of maybe some things you might have said or some behavior you might have just done. So maybe she does something to kind of shit test your dominance or your masculinity to see how you react or something like that. And then if you react in a butthurt way or, start qualifying to her or start doing things to try to seek her approval and basically start acting in a way that's not very masculine, then you just failed the shit test. And she's like, shit, the guy I'm with isn't this masculine guy that I thought he was when we first started dating, right? So that's how those shit tests work. That's not designed. That's not designed to control you. A normal shit test is just part of the package for most women because they want to know that things are, they want a little bit of certainty, and this is a way that they can get that. It's very natural, and if you know how to handle those shit tests really well, then it's not a big deal. It doesn't create a toxic, divisive situation in your relationship. No, this goes beyond that. So shit test is like a retroactive abuse situation at a very, very low non-toxic level, okay? Where it takes it, I don't say non-toxic, but because obviously shit test could be toxic, but it's not to this level. So this level is where she says and does things that are way out of turn, way out of pocket, triggering things for you. May do multiple things to try to get you to respond in a bad way, to try to get you to respond to your masculine default. Your masculine default might be to get assertive, might be to be commanding, might be to be hard on your boundary, might be to raise your voice, might be to give a harsh tone, might be to, verbally break down without, and this doesn't necessarily mean you're calling her names or doing some of those things or whatever, but, cause you to show emotion as a man is what it boils down to. She does things to cause you to show negative emotion as a man, negative emotions like anger or frustration. And when you then show those things, then she turns around and says she's the victim. And so that's how retroactive abuse works, is she does things to get you to be frustrated, upset, pissed off, or just requiring assertive leadership. You react to her behavior in that way in order to set proper boundaries. But the way that she's pushing your boundaries is you have to do it in such a way that's assertive. Or maybe you do. This is assuming you don't lose control, right? Or that you don't do something that's maybe less optimal. I mean, another thing, you could end up yelling, or you could end up being less optimal and losing your cool or getting frustrated or upset. But the point is she's doing things to intentionally create that mind state inside of you. She's doing things to intentionally create turmoil inside of you so that you eventually react to it. And then she is taking your reactions and using that as evidence that she is the victim in your relationship, that you are the bad guy. You are the one who is ultimately wrong. You are the one who does the wrong things. You are the one who's not considerate enough or not caring enough, or you don't know her love languages, or you never listen, or you're not sincere, or you're selfish, or whatever it is, because you reacted to her clearly, we'll say, triggering behavior. So you reacted to her behavior that was overtly and reasonably, cause for a reaction. And she did these things and will do them. Sometimes they do them in such subtle ways that you seem as if you're overreacting. But really, you're reacting in self-defense and in boundary enforcement. Self-defense is the psychology word that they use as an alternative to retroactive abuse, or reactive, not retroactive, sorry, reactive abuse. Okay. Is they say, well, let's not call it reactive abuse, let's call it self-defense. That's what they talk about in counseling world. But I don't even like the term necessarily self-defense. I would say that you are giving an appropriate, and this is assuming you're not responding inappropriately. You're giving an appropriate response with an appropriate level of forcefulness. I won't say force, I'll say forcefulness, reasonable to the behavior she's exhibiting. You raise your voice to get control of her situation because of how she's acting, and you lay down your boundaries, not screaming, not yelling, but you take an assertive tone because it's a reasonable reaction to the behavior she's exhibiting. And she turns around now and says, see, you are being abusive. Do you see how you're reacting? You're acting in a way that is, inappropriate, abusive, bad. You're the bad guy in the relationship. And this plays itself out all the time, because then the guy, your natural monkey brain, is to take care of the baby maker and the vagina that you are having sex with. Okay, so I'm being as crude and rudimentary as possible to explain it, but there's obviously neurochemical bonding things involved. So you're not some narcissistic person, you're not a psychopathic person who can't bond with a woman. You have a bond there, and that bond, you know, causes you to have some vasopressin, which is an instinct of attachment, and also makes you want to protect or caretaker, take care of. All right. And so this is where guys get themselves in trouble, even, is when if the woman's completely divorced herself from the relationship and the guy's still being protective. So she's out to preserve herself and hurt him in the process. If that, means that's the best answer she thinks there is. And he's not being self-protective at all. He's trying to protect her, even though she's attacking him, right? So this is a common theme, because you as a guy you have a natural reaction to want to protect her, protect the baby maker. That natural reaction makes it easy for you to fall to shaming yourself for reacting appropriately. Or maybe you didn't react appropriately. Maybe you overreacted a little bit or even a lot bit, but it isn't to the level of abuse. If it is, then you have a problem and you need to go see somebody. Okay. But so we're not talking about physical abuse or, prolonged emotional, manipulation and abuse. We're talking about a reaction, anger, frustration, that sort of thing. Let's say you lose your cool and you break something. Let's say that happens. You lose your cool and you break something, but you didn't break in front of her, threaten her. If nobody got hurt, you just got angry. But your anger was, maybe the reaction was not justified. You lose your cool. That's poor game. You shouldn't break something. That's not the right answer. But your anger is absolutely justified because she is intentionally trying to make you angry, so that then you can react and then she can control you based on your reaction. It's a very sinister, divisive move. And it happens all the time. All right. And if you're not aware of it, what you end up doing is you end up constantly playing defense from this sort of behavior, where you are constantly the one. This is why a lot of men feel like they're constantly the one apologizing. They're constantly the one who can never do anything right. And they're constantly the one who they constantly feel ashamed. Why do I act like this? But what they're not considering is that she isn't helping at all. And in fact, she's intentionally harming, intentionally creating this scenario. Now, in this very scenario, a man does not have frame. When he is falling victim to this, he is losing frame. Okay. It's very important to understand that. You don't have frame when you're falling victim to being shamed for your reaction that she caused with her action. All right. You're being controlled now. Okay. And that's not good. And guys go down the rabbit hole of real miserable lives with women. And then, because then what'll eventually happen is a guy will get so frustrated and then it's just a constant cycle of him reacting off of this frustration, and then constantly having to, and her constantly being the victim. And then she thinks she's doing is justifying how right she is and how wrong you are, so she can elevate herself to monkey branch to the next guy, or to use you for all you're worth. All right. And if you don't have frame, very often this happens when you don't have frame as a guy. And so I want to point this out so that you can start doing different things to get your frame back. And it starts with not being reactive when she acts certain ways. And there's other things and tactics, but for the scope of this video, unfortunately, it is not going to be an hour-long video today because of the Sexpionage launch. It's actually going really well. And I have a lot of private consults and different things going on right now. So I can't spend the time I would like to spend, and I will spend probably in a future video on YouTube with you. But I want to point this out in a relatively shorter video that this is what goes on. And this goes on a lot, and you've probably had it happen to you. And so in order to prevent this from happening, you have to not be reactive and instead be proactive and learn to not overreact, and also learn to not apologize for reacting appropriately, and don't apologize for your emotions. If you're angry because she's acting in a way that justifies anger, don't apologize for being angry. Don't apologize for being a man. All right. If you set boundaries and you use a harsh tone because of the way she's behaving, that doesn't warrant an apology. And I'm all about accountability and apologizing under the right circumstances. I'm not one of these dudes who are like, never apologize, whatever. I don't believe in that. I think it's bullshit. But don't do it for things. Don't let her make herself out to be the victim based on behavior that she is causing. All right. Don't overreact. Certainly don't take it to actual abusive behavior on your part. But if you recognize that she is a catalyst for this behavior, you need a woman who's going to elevate you and be a compliment to you, not one that's going to be a divisive person. So if the tactics I've taught you here, even for free on YouTube, like the Luca tactic of handling an argument and gaining awareness and setting up an action plan, doesn't pull her out of these kinds of behaviors, you need to exit that relationship, find someone that is going to compliment you. How do you know if she's doing this? And if it's not just something she's doing on accident or something she's not aware of, you'll know she's doing this because she is collecting evidence. That's how. So that's the final tip for this video. If she's trying to collect evidence, in other words, and especially nowadays in terms of recording you or filming you or whatever, but a lot of times the evidence collection is just to use for later things. So she brings up how, oh, but you always yell at me, or you always get mad or upset, or you always get this way, you always get that way. She's trying to create scenarios where you do things that then she can then justify her behavior against you and justify control and getting you to do what she wants later. And then she's using all this stuff as evidence. So it's like she's collecting evidence, right? If something happens like that, follows that pattern, and then you guys solve the problem in a healthy way and she lets things go and isn't bringing it up over and over again anytime she's upset, then okay, you know that this isn't happening. But if you are having evidence collected against you, if you feel like she is the judge, jury, and executioner who is looking for everything you do wrong in order to hold it up in a filing system to be used for later, chances are you are in a situation of reactive abuse. Say retroactive, like jealousy, reactive abuse. You're in that situation and you need to get out of it or stop it. Now, when you have frame in your life and with women, you'll either exit these relationships after giving them the opportunity to fix it, which is a success if that goes that way, or you will have the girl fall into your frame and not do these behaviors, even if that was something she had previously grown accustomed to, and you're going to have a really good life with women. That's what happens when you have frame in your life. Now, final thing, of course, I'm day 2.5 into a 5-day launch on Sexpionage, and it's going really well. Sexpionage is going to teach you deep persuasion and seduction skills. Now, for a girl to not do what I'm talking about right now, she has to be emotionally invested in a relationship, which means she's turned on by you. She desires you. She's attracted to you. She has an emotional feeling of attraction towards you and sees you as the prize. If she doesn't see you as that, she will probably do this behavior, at least to some degree. All right. So, and other things as well to control you. There's another reason she's there, and it isn't because she wants you. All right. And so it turns into something transactional, and there are other benefits other than her attraction. And she's going to try to manipulate the situation of power in the relationship in a bad way. And she's going to be reluctant to follow your frame. And she won't really follow your frame for any length of time if she isn't desiring it. Desire is the key to the kingdom. You can't have desire if you don't know how to seduce a woman, and if you don't know how to talk to your girl and communicate with her, and communicate both through body language, words, tonality, and your behavior. If you can't do those things, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter your SMV. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. She is going to fall out of desire with you. All right. Now, explain how that works probably in the next video. But that can't happen. And she has to desire you, and she will only do it if you know how to seduce and talk to her the right way. So why not, and I say talk to her, but communicate, right? And that includes behaviors. Why not learn the right and best way to do that? Why not learn the way to do that at such an elevated level that you have women always desiring you? Even when everyone else says you're ugly, stupid, misogynist, this and that and the other, guaranteed. I will have people watch this video if it even gets out there, right? Because the algorithms don't like it. Go to Twitter. There's always somebody who will sit there and try to say bad things about me. Look at any attractive guy. There's always people out there saying bad things about that person. But you know what? Doesn't stop women from being attracted to that guy. Doesn't stop their girlfriend, wife, or significant other from seeing them as the prize. Okay? That's what makes the difference. That's what matters. You want the girl that's in your life, or girls in your life, whichever it is, to see you as the prize. You have to know to seduce. That's all I'm going to say. Sexpionage is open till Friday midnight. It's the lowest cost, best opportunity to work with me this year. So don't miss it. All right. Click the link in the description of the video, and I'll show a little commercial before we go. But first, I'm going to press all the wrong buttons, as I usually do. And I'm going to hit share screen. And now we're going to hit the thing. All right. Once there was a caveman named Grok who had eyes for the lovely Neela. Neela was the most beautiful cave woman in the tribe, with her sparkling eyes, infectious laughter, and fat booty. But Grok wasn't the only one smitten by her. All the Chads and Tyrones of the land wanted her too. He tried different ways to attract her, showing off his prowess with a spear, doing favors, bringing gifts, and even serenading her under the moonlit sky. But Neela never seemed to return his affections. She was always kind to Grok, but Grok was only 5'10", and Neela only had eyes for the 6-foot-tall Chads, or so he thought. Determined more than ever, Grok decided to do a pickup artist boot camp in a faraway land. He built up his confidence and learned how to talk to hundreds of cave Stacys, even winning the affection of a few. But when Grok came home to use his newfound skills on Neela, he could sense that same disinterest in her eyes. He could get average Stacys to want to bear his children, but could not win over Neela, or any cave woman as beautiful as she. The pickup artistes told Grok it's a numbers game, and that he had to sleep with thousands of drunk Stacys to get a beauty like Neela. Confused, Grok went to the secret societies of different color pills for advice, but all they could offer were different chants of, "Just next her, bro," and "She only bangs Chads," over and over again. If only I could learn real seduction skills to make Neela fall in love with me, Grok thought. Neela went on to live happily ever after, having babies with a man named Og. Og had secretly learned sexpionage skills. Og was 5'5". The problem with pickup courses today is that they rely on the numbers game. You talk to hundreds of girls, and finally, a chick wants to sleep with you. And usually, these aren't the women of your dreams. Sexpionage is my new course that will train you how to actually seduce the women that you want. Not just get dates with women who you aren't that excited about. You will learn deep persuasion skills borrowed from the elite corners of the espionage world that will train you how to persuade anyone and how to seduce anyone, from the woman you just met to your wife or girlfriend. Enrollment opens April 22nd and closes on the 26th. Click the link and don't miss this opportunity. It's the only one you'll get this year. All right, there it is. There's that cool, funny, awesome ad. All right, well, click that link right now, because as of Friday at midnight, you'll lose that opportunity. Okay, and want to work with you guys on some of these skills. And there's a way too you can get Sexpionage for free. I always forget to mention that a lot of times. There's a way you can get all that stuff for free, as well as several other courses, and all my courses, in fact, that are out. Well, I shouldn't say that, because then it's not free, because you're joining a program to work with me for a year. But anyways, if you decide to work with me for a year, which is an option on the page, you'll get this course for free. And we start our Zoom calls in May, and you have the course material that you'll receive after purchase. And yeah, it'll be awesome. I'm excited to work with you guys. I got a lot of people signed up already, but not too many. Like, I don't look to have hundreds and hundreds of people in a course like this, because then I can't keep up to pace for everybody's questions and all that. If I get a certain number, I have to open it up for more calls during the week. It ends up being a whole thing. But I like having the numbers I got, and I just don't want you to miss it. I want you guys to have this opportunity, right? So I want you guys to do well. All right. Thanks again. Maybe see you tomorrow. Maybe.